This is Cruise Radio.
Cruise Radio is brought to you in part by tripinsurance.com. Travel insurance done right by the people who know travel insurance. Get a quote today at tripinsurance.com.
Broadcasting from the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida.
This is
Cruise Radio. Cruise Radio.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Doug Parker. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Cruise Radio. Very happy to have you here, my friend. Coming up on this week's show, Barry drops by with a review of Disney Magic. And as always, staff writer Richard Sims is here with Cruise News. Hey, Richard.
Hey, Doug.
A mother and her son's cruise vacation ended, and one being kicked off the ship and the other being arrested.
Yeah, the MSC Seascape out of Miami. Details are a little bit fuzzy, but here's what I've been able to piece together from a couple of different news stories. Kelly Ryan and her son Dylan had an altercation with an elderly passenger in the ship's theater. And why does this always seem to happen in ship theaters? I don't know. Dylan reportedly struck the man several times, and it sounds like mom Kelly slapped the guy. So this was all caught on surveillance cameras. The next day, when the ship arrived in Jamaica, Dylan was booted off the ship. First, what they called excessive behavior. Now, we're not sure if that means what happened in the theater or if it was what happened in the theater and other things. But interestingly, even though he was booted off the ship in Jamaica, his mom was allowed to stay on and finish her cruise. So she returned to Miami. When the ship got back, she was arrested. She has been charged specifically with battery on a person 65 years of age or older. Because in some states there are specific laws regarding, elder abuse, basically. This family definitely did not have a great time. No word on if she's been sentenced. No word also on if once Dylan got home, he was also arrested. So there's this story in the coming weeks. We'll have to wait and see.
More cruise options coming to Texas.
That's right, because Norwegian Cruise Line just signed a long-term contract with the Port of Galveston. Over the past couple of years, Norwegian has done seasonal sailings out of Galveston, but this new contract, which is for 10 years with an option of extensions, will see Norwegian homeporting a ship there year-round out of a new terminal, which is currently being built. It'll actually be the fourth cruise dedicated terminal. Galveston is taking a old cargo warehouse and they're converting it into a new cruise terminal. It's going to cost around $156 million to do. A few fun facts. Galveston is currently the only port in Texas. It's the only place you can sail out of Texas and is the fourth most popular port in the country. Now, I know, Doug, you're going to jump in and say, well, what are the others? The top three ports are Canaveral, Port Miami, and Port Everglades. It doesn't surprise me that Florida has, the top three ports. I mean, it's the cruise capital of the world. I will say I thought Everglades was a little surprising, but that's just me. When the new facilities open in 2026, they're expecting Galveston to see over 2 million cruise passengers pass through there a year. They haven't said specifically what ship will be there and whether it'll be like one ship year round or whether they'll rotate, but there's been talk about both, I believe it's Prima and maybe Aqua. It doesn't start until 2026, so they certainly have time to, change their mind and move ships there, but this will be a really good thing for Galveston.
Yeah, as of now, it's Prima and Viva. And moving on to Alaska, we now know the fate of that controversial proposition that would limit cruise ships to Juneau, Alaska.
We've been reporting a lot on various initiatives which are aimed at curbing over-tourism in some of the most popular spots around the world. And in Juneau, you might remember a while back we told you that some of the locals were trying to get a ballot passed which would limit the amount of ships coming. Specifically, they wanted to have ship-free Saturdays. And if passed, it would mean exactly what it says, that Juneau would be off limits to cruise ships on Saturdays. And also, oddly, on the 4th of July, like they threw that in. I guess maybe 4th of July is a busy time in Juneau and they don't want cruise ships joining the festivities. In its early stages, there was quite a bit of support for this idea, enough to get it on the actual ballot. But they just voted last week, and the results are now in, and, drum roll please, the proposition lost. And not by a little. Only 39% of voters supported the idea of banning cruise ships, with 61% shooting it down. So this is one battle that the cruise line and their supporters didn't just win, they won it pretty definitively.
And a reminder to check your travel insurance before cruising.
Yeah. Yeah, not just it's one thing to have travel insurance, and it's a very good thing, and you should always have travel insurance, but you also want to make sure that you have the right travel insurance and that it's going to cover all of your expenses. And this next story is sad and awful and kind of a worst case scenario type thing. So Guy and Adrian Matlock were sailing. They're from Denver, Colorado, and they left on a 2-week European cruise. They left on September 14th, and they were there celebrating their anniversary. They've been married for 37 years. 6 days into the trip, he got sick. Things quickly went from bad to worse. It started as pneumonia, and then he developed other problems, and eventually had to be hospitalized in Copenhagen. He got very good care in Copenhagen, but he is severely ill, needs to come home, and the only way to get him home is to medevac. Now, we've talked in the past about the fact that if you're on a ship and you're medevaced from ship to shore, it's generally going to cost around $20,000, which is a lot of money, obviously, and that, most cruise insurance policies cover like up to $25,000 for medevac, at least most good policies. But unfortunately, the kind of medevac we're talking here isn't, from ship to shore. It is from Copenhagen to Denver, Colorado. And that requires an upfront payment of over $150,000. So they have both life insurance and health insurance, but they don't cover this kind of thing. They aren't, even when you plan for the worst, you probably don't plan for this. So right now, they have a GoFundMe page, which we're linking in the comments below. And they've raised, I think, about $89,000 of the money that they need to get him home. But again, really good reminder, especially if you're doing like an extensive overseas tour where you're going to be gone for 2 or 3 weeks, really make sure that whatever policy you have covers the worst case scenario. Yes, it's going to cost you more, but in the long run, as this terrible case proves, it's definitely worth it. Make sure, read the policy, see what it covers. Imagine in your head, if you're like me, you are very easily able to imagine a worst case scenario. I spend all my days doing that, and then make sure that you're covered for it.
This next story is literally shrouded in mystery.
Okay, I'm super, super, super excited about this one. As a lot of listeners probably know, I watch television in general and soaps in particular, not just for fun, but for a living. I've long been surprised that with cruising being such a growth industry, I mean, it is the number one growth industry in the travel sector, that there's not more television programming out there taking place on a ship or taking advantage of this like kind of cool scenario. I mean, you remember years and years and years ago, the Love Boat. I'm surprised that there's not a new version of the Love Boat out there. There is a new show out there called Dr. Odyssey, which is a big hit for ABC, but it's a fictional show, and it takes place on a fictional ship. The sets they've built are incredible, but it's not real. If any line has really leaned into the possibilities offered by television, it's Virgin Voyages. A couple episodes of The Bachelor were filmed on one of their ships a year or two ago. And there's actually, if you search it out, I think it's on Amazon Prime, there's an entire series called The Cruise, which follows passengers and crew members on a Virgin ship. So those are both out there. Now, Ad Age is reporting that Virgin is developing something called Mystery Cruise. It'll be a reality show, which, as exactly like it sounds, participants, and they'll probably have some famous people or some influencers, or and then some regular people thrown into the mix. They get on the ship and they try and solve a mystery. Probably a murder or a series of murders. It's still in development, and this will all unfold on the Brilliant Lady, their newest ship, which is set to start sailing in 2025. The whole thing is inspired by what's called the White Lotus effect. If you watched the White Lotus, you were probably had the same reaction I did, where as you watched it unfold in these gorgeous locations, you were like, oh my God, I really want to go there. That's the same thing here. they're basically thinking if we set this show on a ship and have this fun experience, this reality show, people will, find themselves saying, hey, I want to book a cruise. I want to book a Virgin cruise. So it's actually really, really smart of them. No word on, this hasn't actually been completely greenlit. It hasn't been picked up by a network, although it's being eyed by Amazon Prime, possibly Netflix. So I don't know. It reminds me a lot of, there was a movie a few years ago, well, not a few years ago, like 30 years ago, called The Last of Sheila, which takes place on a ship. It's a yacht, not a cruise ship. And a group of rich people are on board and someone gets murdered and who's behind it and all that. Really great movie. If you can find it, it's on a cable channel. I highly recommend it. Again, it's called The Last of Sheila. Really cool movie. But this kind of reminds me of that. And I will be surprised if they don't end up, assuming this is successful and it does get made, I would be surprised if they don't start incorporating it into their actual cruises, probably on a smaller scale, like they do Deal or No Deal on ships now. So really excited about this and hope it comes to pass because I think it could be a lot of fun. In fact, if we're looking for contestants, I'll happily be one.
There you go. And I want to say before we hop here, man, if this audio isn't the best for you, the internet is down in our building today. So I'm like tethering all of this off my phone and it's very crappy. So just keep that in mind and give us some grace. Staff writer Richard Sims, as always, thank you, man.
As always, thank you. And let me just remind people, Doug is coming from a region that was just hit by a couple of hurricanes. So the fact that we're able to do this today at all is pretty miraculous.
Have a tip or a lead on a news story? Let us know. Email tips@cruiseradio.net.
A big question we get at Cruise Radio is, how do I know if I need trip insurance? Simple answer. If you're getting on a plane, taking a road trip, or getting on a cruise ship, you need to have travel insurance. Hey, it's Doug Parker from my friends at tripinsurance.com. Not only does tripinsurance.com protect your vacation investment, but it also gives you peace of mind in case anything were to go wrong on your trip. How do they do it? They offer 3 different types of trip insurance policies. Good, better, and best. One policy for every vacation budget. But it doesn't just stop there. They're up to 40% lower when you shop around on other comparison sites. Plus, tripinsurance.com offers 24-hour customer support before, during, and after your trip, online claims assistance, and travel alerts to let you know what's going on at your destination. But find out for yourself. Check out tripinsurance.com.
Just back from a cruise? Let's talk about it. Email Doug at cruiseradio.net.
Barry just returned from a 3-night cruise aboard Disney Magic out of Port Everglades. It went over to the Lighthouse Point and the Bahamas, and he joins us on the line to talk all about it. How you doing, Barry?
I am doing very well, Doug. How about you?
Good to talk to you, and good to can't wait to hear about Lighthouse Point and Disney Magic, a ship I haven't sailed yet. But before we get to all of that, we'll take a step back and give me some pre-cruise thoughts. You're up in the New York area. What made you want to just take this 3-nighter out of Fort Lauderdale?
Yeah, absolutely. It had been a little while since our last cruise. We were looking for a quick end of summer getaway. This was over Labor Day weekend. Check out Lighthouse Point. It opened earlier this summer. That was on our list. And since we're big Disney park fans in Orlando, we go there 2-3 times a year. It was a natural opportunity to sail Disney Cruise Line.
Now, I have to ask, because I've done a couple of Disney Magic interviews this year, and you're not the first person who said, I wanted to sail her while she's still around. Are there like rumors or rumblings that, hey, she's coming up on 30 years, something could be happening?
If anything, just the opposite. After we sailed, or was it right before we sailed, they had the D23 Expo for the year. They're still planning on keeping her around for a long time. I mean, Disney does keep their ships probably in better shape than any of the other major cruise lines out there. Mm-hmm. But, she is approaching that age when cruise ships start phasing out. So I think it's just the way the cruise industry works. People have in their head that 30 years is the cutoff or something like that. So, but yeah, to my knowledge, Magic will still be here for many years to come.
That's good to hear. So you make your way from New York down to South Florida. Any pre-cruise time?
We flew into Fort Lauderdale the day before, had ourselves a hotel room the night before, just had a sort of a lazy ease into the weekend, and then headed over to the terminal the next morning.
So you get over to that terminal, which is fairly new. What were your impressions of the terminal, and how long did it take you from the curb to the ship?
We did not have a lot of time to check out the terminal because from curb to ship may have been 20 minutes. It was incredibly fast. Porters were there. We loaded off our bags. Probably the walk from where we dropped our bags to get into the terminal was longer than anything and any amount of time we spent in the terminal. It was a quick hop to get our documents checked, and then the pre-cruise photo. By the time we got there, our boarding group had already been called, so we took our pre-cruise photo and literally walked right onto the ship. The theming in there is gorgeous. They're going for a Finding Nemo vibe, and it definitely feels like you are under the sea with Nemo and all of his friends. We really, really had a beautiful time walking in there. Very different than our experience on sailing out of Port Canaveral on the Disney Wave.
Now, because 20 minutes is that's super fast. What do you think Disney, what do you attribute that to? What do you think Disney is doing right that maybe the other cruise lines maybe haven't grasped yet?
Yeah, I mean, as much frustrating as those port arrival times are, and you can't arrive beforehand and so forth, I think it definitely helps with overcrowding in the terminal. So it definitely feels like they're staggering the arrival times in order to get people through a little bit faster. So that experience is a whole lot more pleasant for guests. And, I also think that the challenge, of course, is the prior cruise. Can they clear the ship, quickly enough that they can start the boarding of the new cruise on time? And in this case, they definitely seem to do that, at least from what we could see.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So you make your way on board Disney Magic. What were your first impressions?
Yeah, we sailed on the Wish, and we had also sailed on the Disney Dream previously. And the first impression was this is substantially smaller. But we, of course, knew that going into it. But we were still blown away. The ship was impeccable. The atrium was gorgeous and beautiful. I think the rustic vibe, the ocean liner vibe that Disney is going for in cruise line was really, really noticeable on this ship. And of course, there's, no greater feeling to kick off your cruise than to have a crew member on that ship welcome your family by calling out your name. It's such a beautiful way to start your vacation.
During this 3-night cruise, what kind of stateroom did you book, and what did you think of it through the sailing?
Absolutely. Yeah. We booked a category 5, which is their standard veranda. They do have a slightly larger room, but given that this was only a 3-nighter, we sort of bit the bullet and went with the smaller of the two options. It was perfect for us, my husband and I, and our almost 3-year-old toddler. Plenty of room. The stroller for our little one did take up a little bit of space, but we figured out how to sort of position it that it was off to the side and not obstructing any sort of movement. We loved the underbed storage to put the suitcases so they weren't taking up unnecessary space. That's a huge asset. Love the split bathroom on a Disney ship so that someone can be using one bathroom and taking a shower. Someone can be getting ready in the other one. That's a huge asset. And yeah, it was what we expected having sailed Disney before, but it was perfect for our needs and met all of our expectations in that sense.
And how modern or updated, I guess, was the technology on board, like USBs or USB-Cs, etc.?
Yep. If there was one potential hiccup, it would be the tech, since it is such an old ship. They've definitely gone in and added where they can. But if you have, both adults have phones and iPads and other electronics that need to plug in. There's definitely some plugs over on the desk, but if you're looking for outlets on the, nightstand or right next to the bed, it worked fine for each of us to have one device, but anything else we did have to put over on the desk. And so if we went to bed in the evening, we wouldn't have it until the next morning.
So the food on Disney Magic. So what were your impressions of we'll start at the top of the buffet area. Was it crowded at all throughout the sailing? And how was the food selection up there?
Yeah, we did not use much of Cabanas, the buffet. I did go up there and grab some pastries and some milk for our daughter one morning, but we have found the buffets to be very crowded in the past, and we sort of wanted a more leisurely experience. We weren't in a hurry to sort of eat and run, and so we checked out. It was beautiful. There's definitely some variety up there, but not a place we spent a lot of time on this cruise.
And talk to us about the dining situation on Disney cruise ships. Now, from my understanding, it's rotational dining on every ship, which means that you're in a different dining room every night. But with that, are you at an assigned time dining, or can you do any time if you wanted to?
Yeah, great question. Disney is still in the classic model of a main seating at 5:45 and then a late seating at, I think it's 8 or 8:15. And so you are set to your time. If you're a 5:45, and of course you don't get there till 6 or 6:10, of course they will seat you, but you do have those fixed dining and times. And like every other family on the ship with small kids, we of course opted for that main 545 seating. The rotational stuff they do is great because your dining team meets you the first night, gets to know you, and then takes care of you for the entire cruise. On a 3-nighter, obviously, it's those relationships you build are a little bit more limited, but Disney's dining team gets to know you and all of your tastes perfectly. You know, they'll wait on you the first night and they'll learn what your drink preferences are. And so the next time you sit down, that drink is waiting for you. I bought a bottle of wine on the first night and had it follow us through the whole cruise. So the wine was there waiting to be poured when we sat down the successive nights, which was always a nice treat. They learn what your kids' preferences are. And so, you know, my daughter loves fruit. And so there was always a bowl of fruit for her, which was such a special treat. You know, always a kids menu waiting for her. And just, it really is a special kind of a relationship and structure that they have on these Disney ships where you have that group that really gets to know you and takes care of you. And you really build that relationship with over the length of your cruise.
And then, so let's just say there's 3 main dining rooms. And so if you were on a 7-night cruise, would you cycle through all 3 of them twice and then you'd have just one extra? Is that how that works?
That's exactly how we've not done a 7-night on Disney, but that is my understanding from friends who've done that. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. And as far as maybe any dining outside of the main dining room or seating, the buffet area, what you said you rarely ate at, any other maybe grab and goes or specialty restaurants?
Yeah, we did check out some of the eateries up on the pool area, and they had a really, really nice sort of fresh food station with salads and sandwiches and things like that. They had your typical pizza station, your hamburgers and hot dogs. They actually had one area that was serving chicken shawarma, which I thought was pretty unique. I'm a big fan of Middle Eastern food, so I had to check that out. It was delicious, very fresh. We all agreed this was the best food that we've ever had on a Disney show.
And how did the entertainment stack up on this 3-nighter?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Disney has some of the best entertainment out there. It's obviously an entertainment company. We absolutely loved the Tangled musical. That was the first night. We thought that was incredible. The second night, we saw Twice Charmed, which is a take on the Cinderella story. Beautiful. And the last night was Disney Dreams, which is, I call it the variety show because it's the one that sort of integrates multiple Disney intellectual properties, multiple characters into one show. We thought that one was exceptional as well. So really, really, really beautiful quality shows. You know, they have a couple of adult jokes in there, like any good classic Disney film. And we really enjoyed it.
How about other areas around the ship, maybe like a musician or a piano player in the atrium or any places?
Every evening they have a musician in the atrium. They also have some photo backdrops set up. So if you splurge on the photo package, as we did, you're able to take them on the backdrops. And then after your cruise, you have these amazing, amazing pictures to share. So we were enjoying the music there, playing a lot of contemporary tunes as well. They have a new Soul Cat Lounge that was put in during the ship's last dry dock. We had some live music we checked out there. I checked out a few of the adults-only venues as well. They had a Keys, which is the piano bar. That was a lovely space as well. Checked out, it was a Labor Day weekend opening of college football, so I checked out O'Gill's, the sports bar, to see some scores and some games as well. And then they sort of have a nightclub area called Fathoms, which I just think is the perfect name for a venue on a cruise ship. And that was they had some game shows going on in there, some karaoke as well. So there definitely is a little bit of everything going on after hours, especially after the kids go to bed, some entertainment for the adults.
How does the meet and greet works? Okay, so like when I sailed Disney last, it was during the restart and things were totally different. Yep. But do you get a queue, sign up in advance with your app, or do you just kind of show up and get in line at these different locations around the ship?
One of the reasons that we love the characters on the cruise ships is you don't have these, hour-long lines to meet Mickey Mouse like you do in the parks. You have your app, which will have the schedule, and it will say that so-and-so will be in this location for 15 minutes or half an hour or whatever it is. And you just go. People will start lining up a little bit in advance. They often will do characters back to back to back to back. So if you get there too early, they'll have you wait. If you get there, they may sort of at that last of that 15-minute window, they may cut you off and say, okay, you're going to be first in line for whoever's next. But the lines were never more than 10 or 15 minutes at a time, which I did not find to be too bad at all. They do have the Royal Gathering once or twice every cruise. This time we had it once. We were not able to pre-reserve it, but they were able to accommodate us on the ship. And so they'll have 4 or 5 princesses stationed in the atrium. And you'll get online and you'll walk through and you'll meet each of them, have some conversation and chat with them. It was very cute. We met Ariel and I was teasing her that she must love a cruise because she can keep her legs, but still be at sea. So not breaking character. She did kind of laugh and acknowledge it. But yeah, so that one's a pre-reservation either on board or ahead of time, but
cool.
Otherwise you're on the app and you just be in that place when they come.
Nice. Now, are you allowed to use your own camera or your phone, or do you have to use Disney photos?
You can do either one. You can certainly use your own. We have pictures from our phones and the ones that they took, and so we take the best of what we have.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. So as far as sea days, did you have any on this one since it was a 3-night?
We did not.
Okay.
We left Port Everglades on the Friday. Saturday, we were at Lighthouse Point. Sunday was Nassau, and we were back first thing Monday morning. We sort of treated Nassau like a pseudo sea day, and so the cruise did as well. They did have obviously far more offerings on board the ship that day than on our Lighthouse Point day, but still not a traditional sea day.
So let me ask you though, as far as getting around from point A to point B, from the stateroom to dinner or, the theater to dinner, how was it as far as crowds and congestion while you were just sailing between ports?
Totally. Yeah. Aside from embarkation day, there was crowds were not terrible at all. The elevators are definitely a little bit smaller than some of the other the 2 other Disney ships we've been on or the other cruises we've taken writ large. And so it was like sometimes you had to sort of scramble to squeeze in there, which is where obviously taking the stairs come in. And since we weren't relying on the stroller terribly much, we were able to do that easily. And otherwise, though, aside from the pirate night when, everybody is leaving the deck to head back to their rooms at the same time, did not seem like the congestion was too difficult, never waiting more than 2 or 3 minutes for an elevator if you didn't want to take the stairs.
And Pirate Night, that is when they do the fireworks. Is there only one show?
Yep. On a longer sailing, they will basically have a special Pirate Night menu in all of the dining rooms, given that this was a 3-nighter. The dining room still had their usual menu each evening, but then starting around 9:30 up on the pool deck, they had a dance party, and then they have the main show, and then the fireworks go off, and then after that, they show one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies on the big screen. But yeah, it's sort of one evening show, and they every ship is unique in how they do it. This one was actually very, very cool. Captain Hook sort of bungees down from one of the funnels at one point during the show, and towards the end of the show, as in a prelude to set off the fireworks, Mickey actually ziplined between the 2 funnels. So that was a pretty awesome sight to see.
Yeah. So let's talk about Disney's Lookout Cay at Lighthouse Point, since you kind of treated Nassau as a sea day there. And so what did you think of Lighthouse Point being your first time there, and also that much discussed pier where the ship docks all the way to actually getting to Lighthouse Point? What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, we definitely when we the pier was first was debuted, if you will, we definitely had our skepticism. And it's not a short walk by any stretch of the imagination. There's a Castaway Cay, they do a 5K race. So I was joking around with some friends that we should get the medal just for walking down the pier at Lighthouse Point. But as I've come to learn, that they built it so far out as a way to sort of preserve some of the ocean life and the reefs and things around the island. So long as it was done obviously with all of the environmental intention to try and preserve the local flora and fauna and whatnot of that area, which I do appreciate. They do have golf carts and things if you need them, so that is available. It ended up being our walk not as bad as I feared, which was nice. I think that the fact that the weather was very overcast and maybe a little rainy that day helped. If we were baking under a hot summer sun, it might have been a different experience. The pier, we made it work and it was lovely. The island itself is absolutely gorgeous. You sort of walk off and you're in like a little welcome area. They, of course, have some restrooms and a gift shop and things like that, and some check-in areas for things like the banana boat tours and the other ocean activities that they have on that side of the island. And then you take a tram to the far other side of the island, which is where all the beaches are. And so I've realized that one side of the island is the deep water, and that's, of course, where the ship docks. And the other side is the more shallow areas where that are more conducive to swimming. The food on the island had an incredible variety. They put a lot of thought into maintaining Bahamian culture. So there's all kinds of dancers, and it feels like Junkanoo when you're getting off and so forth. So that piece was really beautiful as well. Again, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous beach. We were not really in the mood to go in the water that day, in part because of the weather. But we did check it out. We did get a taste of the food, as I mentioned. We were very, very impressed with all the thought and design that went into it.
You mentioned golf carts. Is that for like if you had a family member with you with maybe mobility issues?
Yeah, they do ask that you reserve that those be reserved exactly for people with mobility needs or something like that. Yeah.
Not because you had too much drink at one of the bars at the beach. Okay, gotcha. And then on Castaway, they have that adults only space that serves like the steak and stuff for lunch. Do they have the same kind of setup there for that?
Yes, it is the exact same setup. They have two main buffets, and then they do have the buffet over in the adults only area. Again, since we had our daughter with us, we did not check out the 18 over area, but they do have a separate secluded area over there for the grown-ups.
And then when you're comparing the beaches between the two destinations, which one would you say had an edge up?
Yeah, I mean, if there is one thing that distinguishes them beyond sort of the other features, the beach here definitely is a little bit nicer. It definitely is. They're both beautiful and picturesque. And Castaway is lovely because you can actually see the ship while you're in the water. Lighthouse Point's definitely a different experience, but they do have the water's maybe a little bit bluer, and the sea seems maybe a little bit calmer, at least the day that we were there. So that was really beautiful. And they did have some more things going on for kids. I felt like there was a water play area here that we did not see it at Castaway. It's possible it was there and we didn't see it, but definitely had we brought a suit, my daughter would have spent all day in there.
Nice. So you make your way back on the ship. Did I miss anything that I probably should have touched on for Lighthouse, or did we cover it all, you think?
I think we hit pretty much everything. If you're a beach person and you love to sprawl out your lounger first thing in the morning and just sit in the sun on the beach all day, it's absolutely stunning and gorgeous. And again, the nod to the local culture is something that I cannot state enough. For us, it was enough, at least on this trip, to just go get a taste and sort of hop back on the ship. We actually had a spa appointment in the afternoon. But yeah, it was absolutely beautiful.
Since you mentioned the spa and the appointment, do they have that rainfall room on board?
They do have a rainforest room. We did not check it out. We were only there for an hour or so for our service. But yeah.
All right. Very cool. So it's Monday morning. You're back in Port Everglades. It's time to debark. How was that process?
Super simple, super easy. We were fearing crazy long lines. We did not encounter any of that. We had actually, typically what you will do on a Disney ship is if you have early dining, then you'll have breakfast at 6:45 in the morning before you debark. And if you have the later dining, you'll have breakfast at 8. We were in no hurry. We had a late enough flight home that evening, and the dining team was able to accommodate us at the later breakfast. So we took our time as much as one can do on debark morning, had a leisurely breakfast, and again, walked off the ship. Super, super simple. They have the facial recognition in the terminal as you're exiting, so we did not even have to deal with any long customs lines or anything like that. We were in and out of there in a few seconds, called our Uber and then headed to, we actually picked up a rental car and spent the day in Fort Lauderdale before our flight home late that afternoon.
Awesome. Do anything cool in Lauderdale?
We checked out Flamingo Gardens. Okay. We were looking for an activity with our little one, and the weather was a little spotty, but Florida in the summer, that's par for the course. But we nonetheless had a great day, and the only hiccup actually we had was a mechanical issue on our flight home. So they had to swap out an aircraft, and we had a longer delay, but all worked out. We got home just fine.
First time tips for sailing Disney Magic.
Again, definitely smaller than the Dream or the Wish that we had sailed on previously. And so, if you're looking for, that large, grandiose kind of a ship, it definitely is not there. This is a ship of its time from 1998. But with that expectation put in mind, exceptional food. We absolutely loved dinner at the Tangled restaurant. Animator's Palette, which is, of course, the signature restaurant on at least now the first 4 of Disney's ships, has a show. Mickey comes out during the show. It's so beautiful, so fun. We loved every second, I think, of that meal. The Lumiere's, the French restaurant, was lovely as well. And we ended up having breakfast there as well, since that was our last. But yeah, the quality of entertainment was great. There's definitely a sense, we were talking to some of the crew members, they love this ship, especially if they've worked on others in the fleet. We were just in love with that part of the experience as well. We just had a wonderful, wonderful time. I cannot recommend it enough. Not sure how quickly we would do a 3-night again, just because, just by the time you feel like you're settling in, you're getting back off. But nonetheless, we had a really, really incredible experience. And or at least our goal as travel agents of trying to sail every ship in Disney's fleet, we accomplished that, brought ourselves one step closer, but in the process had a really, really incredible time.
What's your agency's name?
Yeah, we work with an agency called Magic Vacations based in Central Florida. And so, of course, Disney is a big part of our business.
Hey, back to the dining for a second. Like you said, with the dining, it was set at nighttime for early and I guess late for the main dining room rotation. But in the morning, is it a set dining time as well, or is it come as you are?
No. Morning is whatever you want. Morning is, typically, one restaurant will be open for breakfast. One restaurant will be open as well for lunch. The buffet is, of course, open. Cabanas is open during all of those meal times as well. Room service is, of course, very popular in the morning. But it's only dinner that has that formality.
And the biggest highlight of your cruise?
Oh, goodness. The biggest highlight probably has to be just my daughter getting to interact with all of the characters. I mean, I mentioned that we go to Disney often, so this is nothing new for her. She's been, meeting them since she was 6 months old. But the smile on her face when she gets to meet all of them and schmooze with all of them, it was just absolutely beautiful. That was definitely a highlight. And the Soul Cat Lounge has a smoked old fashioned, and I definitely enjoyed that cocktail a couple times on the cruise as well.
Nice. And your final thoughts of Disney Magic?
Loved her. Absolutely loved her. Would sail her after we finish our cycle to hit all the ships in the fleet. Would sail her again without a second thought, as long as it was longer than a 3-night cruise.
Fair enough. We've been talking with Barry about his 3-night sailing aboard Disney Magic. Barry, thank you so much for stopping by and sharing your vacation with us.
It's my pleasure, Doug. I hope to, we have the Wonder booked in the spring. I hope to chat with you after that cruise.
Absolutely.
All right, Dougie, let's see what we got for you, buddy. Cruise Radio is produced at the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. Get cruise news, ship reviews, and money-saving tips every Thursday on Cruise Radio. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. If you want to help spread the word, give Cruise Radio a 5-star review. Find Cruise Radio where you listen to your favorite podcast or online at cruiseradio.net. I'm your announcer,